Good evening, everyone. We all know life has its ups and downs, but having the ability to do and go wherever you want on this amazing planet is awesome. Our planet helps us sustain life so we as the human race can do as we please. Sadly, we aren't doing our part for the planet. With the constant burning of fossil fuels that results to pollution, trash being dumped into the ocean, and even diminishing ecosystems. My speech is important because as the human race, we need to start taking better care of our home Earth. In the end, we all live on the same planet, so it affects everyone. My sources to back up this speech is weform.gov, GIA.gov, NASA.gov, NationalGeographic.com, NewsBusiness.com, and New York Times. I plan to inform the audience about climate change. I will define what climate change is, the causes of climate change, and how to prevent climate change. So my first point, you may be wondering what climate change is. Well, according to NASA, climate change is a long-term change in the average weather patterns that define local, regional, and global climate, NASA.gov. Basically, NASA is saying climate change alters a region's specific climate, which can be bad. Again, referring to NASA, the planet's average surface temperature has risen about 1.62 degrees and 0.9 degrees Celsius. I'm sure everyone has noticed the warm winters and really hot summers, right? This is climate change. Summers are getting extremely hot and winters are getting warm. According to NASA, 2016 was the hottest year on record, but 8 of the 12 months that make up the year, with the exception of June, were the warmest on record. Now, it may seem like a few degrees isn't that bad, but in actuality, that slight temperature increase can do more harm than good to ecosystems. Climate change can cause plants and animals to act odd, or they can cause species to die off and go extinct or be endangered. According to the National Geographic, researcher Bill Fraser has tracked the decline of Adelie penguins on Antarctica, where the numbers have fallen from 32,000 breeding pairs to 11,000 breeding pairs in the past 30 years. National Geographic. Potential problem for certain animal and plant groups. These animals can die off due to what we are doing to the planet with climate change. Climate change can also result into some disease spread. According to National Geographic, diseases such as malaria will spread. Climate change ends up causing more bugs to live due to winters not being cold enough to kill them off. Certain insects, since temperature has risen, can increase these insects to wreak more havoc on society. For example, bugs in Africa. Cicadas in Africa have increased, and due to those cicadas increasing, there have been many cases of farmers losing their crops due to this. This is all because of climate change. My second point is what causes climate change. There are many greenhouse gases that cause the planet to heat up. Greenhouse gases contribute into the greenhouse effect by absorbing infrared radiation, causing the planet to heat up. Some examples of greenhouse gases are CO2. That includes the methane released from landfills and agriculture, nitrous oxide from fertilizers, and gases used for refrigeration and industrial processes. Quoted by National Geographic, CO2 emissions are at an all-time high, which, according to weform.org, China is the number one producer of CO2 emissions, being at 27.2% in the entire world, while America, the United States, is the second runner-up at 14.2%. The next cause of climate change is pollution. Pollution is caused by the burning of fossil fuels, such as coal, oil, and gasoline. We use these for our cars. According to New York Times, the worldwide industrial emissions are on rise at 0.6% in the world in 2020. Now you know the causes of global warming. I'll get to my final point. How can we prevent global warming? Since global warming is caused by the burning of fossil fuels and greenhouse gases, it is very clear that we should stick to renewable sources, such as nuclear energy. Energy sources that won't cause pollution or cause the planet to heat up. As I said earlier, nuclear energy is a good source to start by. Nuclear energy is one of the more reliable sources of energy. It is reusable and is a great source of power and according to EIA, nuclear power reactors do not produce direct carbon dioxide emissions like fossil fuels. A second alternative energy source is solar power. Solar power is the second best way to reduce climate change. It's in the name, solar, meaning powered by the sun. It can offer an endless supply of power. According to NBN, solar energy refers to capturing energy from the sun and turning it into electricity. NBN.com. Honestly, solar energy isn't such a bad idea, since it can help lower CO2 emissions. To wrap things up, people cause climate change due to greenhouse gases and pollution. It can cause harm to living things and we can prevent climate change by switching to alternative energy sources. All of us can come together to save the planet we live on, to continue our life and live them to the fullest. Thank you for your time and have a good night.